My child, stop for a moment. Do not scroll away. Do not rush past these words. Do not tell yourself that this message is meant for someone else. Because if you are listening right now, there is a reason. Out of all the videos you could have watched, all the voices competing for your attention, all the distractions surrounding your day, somehow you arrived here at this exact moment. That is not something I want you to dismiss too quickly. Take a deep breath and listen carefully. I know that lately there have been moments when you felt invisible. Moments when you smiled on the outside while carrying questions no one could see. Moments when you wondered if anyone truly understood the weight you have been carrying. You tried to stay strong. You tried to keep moving forward. You told yourself that tomorrow would feel different. Yet there were nights when the silence felt louder than the noise. There were moments when you looked around and felt alone, even when other people were nearby. I saw every one of those moments. I saw the tears you never explained. I saw the prayers you whispered when nobody else was listening. I saw the battles you fought in your mind while the world assumed you were doing fine. And that is why I am speaking to you now. This message did not find you by accident. Long before you pressed play, long before you arrived at this moment, I knew this conversation would happen. I knew the questions living inside your heart. I knew the fears you rarely admit. I knew the exhaustion that has quietly followed you from one day to the next. My child, I have not forgotten you, not for a single moment. While you were wondering if your life was moving in the wrong direction, I was watching over every step. While you were questioning your worth, I was reminding heaven of your name. While you felt unseen, you remained fully seen by me. You may not understand everything that is happening in your life right now. Some doors have closed. Some answers have been delayed. Some seasons have lasted longer than you expected. But stay with me, because what feels confusing today may soon reveal a purpose you cannot yet see. There is a reason your heart felt drawn to stop. There is a reason these words feel personal. And there is a reason this moment feels different. Before this message is over, I want to show you something you may have forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not overlooked. You are not drifting through life unnoticed. You are deeply known. You are deeply loved. And what you have been calling loneliness may be the very place where my voice can finally reach you clearly. So stay with me, my child. Because what I am about to reveal may change the way you see every painful season you have walked through. And it begins with a truth you desperately need to hear. I saw every moment you felt forgotten. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand before we go any further. The moments that felt invisible to everyone else were never invisible to me. I saw every moment you felt forgotten. I saw the times when you gave more than you received, when you showed kindness and compassion to others, yet secretly wondered why no one seemed to notice the burdens you were carrying yourself. I saw the moments when you checked your phone, hoping for a message that never came. I saw the conversations that ended with disappointment. I saw the invitations that never arrived. I saw the times you felt excluded, overlooked, or left behind while everyone else appeared to be moving forward. And I know how deeply those moments affected you. Some wounds do not come from harsh words. Some wounds come from silence, from being ignored, from feeling unimportant, from believing that your presence does not matter. My child, I know there were days when you questioned your value because of how others treated you. You wondered if you were somehow not enough, not interesting enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. Those thoughts settled quietly into your heart. You rarely spoke about them, but I heard every one of them. I know about the nights when you lay awake replaying events in your mind, trying to understand why things happened the way they did. I know about the prayers you whispered through tears, the prayers you were almost embarrassed to pray because they seemed so small compared to the problems of the world. Yet they mattered to me. Every prayer mattered. Every tear mattered. Every sigh mattered. Nothing that came from your heart escaped my attention. There were moments when you looked around and felt as though everyone else belonged somewhere except you. You watched others build friendships, relationships, families, and opportunities, while you stood quietly wondering when your turn would come. You compared your journey to theirs and concluded that something must be wrong. But my child, comparison has always hidden the truth from you. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were never abandoned. You simply could not see what I was doing behind the scenes. While you were looking at closed doors, I was protecting you from rooms that would have wounded you. While you were grieving what left your life, I was preparing space for what belongs in your future. While you were questioning your worth, I was carefully shaping your character in ways that success alone never could. I know there were times when you felt exhausted from being strong, times when you encouraged others while secretly wishing someone would encourage you, times when you carried responsibilities that nobody else seemed to notice, times when you smiled because explaining your pain felt harder than hiding it. I saw all of it. Not a single act of quiet strength was wasted. Not a single sacrifice was forgotten. Not a single moment of endurance went unseen. Heaven recorded every one of them. My child, there were also moments when you wondered if I was listening at all. You prayed, you waited, you hoped, and still the answer did not come as quickly as you expected. The silence made you question my presence. The waiting made you question my timing. And disappointment tempted you to question my love. But even then, I remained near. Closer than you realized, watching over you while you struggled to understand what I was doing. The truth is that I never turned away from your pain. I never lost interest in your story. I never became distracted by someone else's needs and forgot about yours. You have always been known. You have always been seen. You have always been loved, even in the moments when you felt completely alone. And that is why I need you to stay with me now. Because what felt like abandonment was actually something very different. What you interpreted as distance was often my preparation. What you called loneliness was often an invitation. And in the next part, I want to show you why the season that felt the emptiest may have been the season when I was closest to you. My beloved child, one of the hardest things for your heart to accept has been the silence. Not the noise, not the struggle, not even the waiting itself, but the silence. Because silence leaves room for questions. It leaves room for uncertainty. It leaves room for fears to whisper things that were never true. There were days when you thought, if God is with me, why does everything feel so quiet? You wanted clear answers. You wanted visible movement. You wanted reassurance that something was happening behind the scenes. Instead, you found yourself in a season where little seemed to change. The same prayers, the same concerns, the same waiting, and slowly, the silence began to feel heavy. But my child, I want you to see that season through my eyes, because the silence had a purpose. What appeared empty was never empty. What appeared still was never inactive. And what appeared forgotten was never abandoned. While you were measuring progress by what you could see, I was working in places your eyes could not reach. I was working in your heart. I was working in your thinking. I was working in your character. I was working in circumstances that had not yet come together. You wanted immediate answers. I was building lasting foundations. You wanted quick relief. I was preparing long-term peace. You wanted visible change. I was creating invisible strength. Many people only trust me when they can see movement. But deep faith grows when movement cannot yet be seen. Anyone can believe when doors are opening. Anyone can rejoice when prayers are answered immediately. But there is something powerful that develops when a person continues to trust me during the quiet seasons. That is where endurance grows. That is where maturity develops. That is where your relationship with me becomes deeper than circumstances. My child, there were things I needed to remove before I could bring certain blessings into your life. Some distractions had become too loud. Some influences had become too powerful. Some voices had become more important to you than mine. So I allowed the noise to fade, not to punish you, but to protect you. There are conversations you never had that would have wounded you. There are opportunities you never received that would have distracted you. There are paths you never walked that would have taken you far from where I am leading you. You call those things missed opportunities. I call them protection. You call them disappointments. I call them redirections. You call them setbacks. I call them preparation. The silence was creating space. Space for healing. Space for wisdom. Space for clarity. Space for my voice. I know there were moments when you wanted to escape the stillness. You wanted constant activity because activity felt easier than reflection. You wanted distractions because distractions helped you avoid the questions living deep inside your heart. But the quiet brought those questions to the surface. The quiet revealed wounds you had ignored. The quiet exposed fears you had buried. The quiet uncovered dreams you had almost given up on. And that was necessary. Because healing begins when truth is revealed. My child, the silence also taught you something about yourself. It showed you how much of your identity had been connected to external things. Achievements, relationships, recognition, approval. When those things became less certain, you were forced to discover something deeper. You were forced to discover that your value never came from any of those things. Your value came from me. The silence was teaching you to build your life on something that cannot be taken away. Not public opinion, not temporary success, not human validation, but my love. And my love does not change. Even now, as you listen to these words, you may still be in a season that feels quiet. You may still be waiting for answers. You may still be wondering when things will finally make sense. But I want you to remember this truth. Silence is not evidence of my absence. Silence is often evidence of my preparation. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Seeds grow in hidden places. Roots strengthen beneath the surface. And some of the greatest transformations happen long before they become visible. One day you will look back on this season differently. You will realize that the silence was not your enemy. It was the environment where I was preparing you for what comes next. And what comes next begins with a truth that many people spend their entire lives searching for. You have never been unknown in heaven. Because even during the quietest season of your life, your name was still being spoken before me. My beloved child, one of the hardest things for your heart to accept has been the silence. Not the noise, not the struggle, not even the waiting itself, but the silence. Because silence leaves room for questions. It leaves room for uncertainty. It leaves room for fears to whisper things that were never true. There were days when you thought, if God is with me, why does everything feel so quiet? You wanted clear answers. You wanted visible movement. You wanted reassurance that something was happening behind the scenes. Instead, you found yourself in a season where little seemed to change. The same prayers, the same concerns, the same waiting. And slowly, the silence began to feel heavy. But my child, I want you to see that season through my eyes. Because the silence had a purpose. What appeared empty was never empty. What appeared still was never inactive. And what appeared forgotten was never abandoned. While you were measuring progress by what you could see, I was working in places your eyes could not reach. I was working in your heart. I was working in your thinking. I was working in your character. I was working in circumstances that had not yet come together. You wanted immediate answers. I was building lasting foundations. You wanted quick relief. I was preparing long-term peace. You wanted visible change. I was creating invisible strength. Many people only trust me when they can see movement. But deep faith grows when movement cannot yet be seen. Anyone can believe when doors are opening. Anyone can rejoice when prayers are answered immediately. But there is something powerful that develops when a person continues to trust me during the quiet seasons. That is where endurance grows. That is where maturity develops. That is where your relationship with me becomes deeper than circumstances. My child, there were things I needed to remove before I could bring certain blessings into your life. Some distractions had become too loud. Some influences had become too powerful. Some voices had become more important to you than mine. So I allowed the noise to fade. Not to punish you, but to protect you. There are conversations you never had that would have wounded you. There are opportunities you never received that would have distracted you. There are paths you never walked that would have taken you far from where I am leading you. You call those things missed opportunities. I call them protection. You call them disappointments. I call them redirections. You call them setbacks. I call them preparation. The silence was creating space. Space for healing. Space for wisdom. Space for clarity. Space for my voice. I know there were moments when you wanted to escape the stillness. You wanted constant activity because activity felt easier than reflection. You wanted distractions because distractions helped you avoid the questions living deep inside your heart. But the quiet brought those questions to the surface. The quiet revealed wounds you had ignored. The quiet exposed fears you had buried. The the quiet, uncovered dreams you had almost given up on, and that was necessary, because healing begins when truth is revealed. My child, the silence also taught you something about yourself. It showed you how much of your identity had been connected to external things, achievements, relationships, recognition, approval. When those things became less certain, you were forced to discover something deeper. You were forced to discover that your value never came from any of those things. Your value came from me. The silence was teaching you to build your life on something that cannot be taken away. Not public opinion, not temporary success, not human validation, but my love. And my love does not change. Even now, as you listen to these words, you may still be in a season that feels quiet. You may still be waiting for answers. You may still be wondering when things will finally make sense. But I want you to remember this truth. Silence is not evidence of my absence. Silence is often evidence of my preparation. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Seeds grow in hidden places. Roots strengthen beneath the surface. And some of the greatest transformations happen long before they become visible. One day you will look back on this season differently. You will realize that the silence was not your enemy. It was the environment where I was preparing you for what comes next. And what comes next begins with a truth that many people spend their entire lives searching for. You have never been unknown in heaven. Because even during the quietest season of your life, your name was still being spoken before me. My beloved child, there is a truth I want to place deep within your heart today. A truth stronger than your doubts, stronger than your fears, stronger than every lonely thought that ever tried to convince you that you did not matter. Heaven never stopped speaking your name. Not when you felt forgotten, not when you felt unseen, not when you felt distant from me, and certainly not during the seasons when you questioned your purpose. Your name has never been lost in heaven. Your story has never been overlooked. Your life has never been treated as insignificant. I know there were moments when you felt like just another person among billions. One face in a crowd, one voice among many voices. One life that seemed ordinary compared to the lives of others. You looked around and saw people receiving recognition, opportunities, relationships, and blessings. Sometimes it seemed as though everyone else was being noticed while you remained hidden. The enemy used those moments to whisper lies into your heart. He told you that you were invisible. He told you that your life did not matter. He told you that no one would notice if you disappeared for a while. But those thoughts never came from me, because heaven has never viewed you that way. You are not a forgotten name. You are not an overlooked life. You are not a random accident moving through history. You are my child. And heaven knows exactly who you are. Before anyone on earth ever spoke your name, I knew it. Before anyone celebrated your existence, I loved you. Before anyone misunderstood you, I understood you completely. And before you ever searched for me, I was already watching over you. My child, when I say that heaven speaks your name, I am not speaking about fame. I am not speaking about popularity. I am not speaking about the world's definition of importance. Heaven measures value differently. The world celebrates performance. I celebrate relationship. The world notices people because of what they achieve. I know people because they are mine. That is why your name carries meaning in heaven. Not because you have done everything right. Not because you have never struggled. Not because you have always been strong. Your name matters because I love you, even when you doubted, even when you wandered, even when you questioned your own worth. Nothing changed my love for you. Nothing removed your name from my heart. There were nights when you felt completely alone. Nights when you cried quietly so no one else would know. Nights when disappointment settled heavily upon your shoulders. You thought those moments belonged only to you. But I was there. I heard every prayer. I saw every tear. I understood every fear. Nothing about your pain was hidden from me. Nothing about your struggle went unnoticed. Heaven was fully aware of what you were carrying. While you were trying to survive one day at a time, I was already preparing the next chapter of your story. While you were wondering whether your future would ever improve, I was already creating pathways you could not yet see. While you were questioning whether your life had meaning, heaven was still speaking your name with care, purpose, and love. My child, I want you to release the belief that being unseen by people means being unseen by me. Those are not the same thing. Some of the people I have used most powerfully walked through seasons of obscurity. Some of the deepest transformations happened far from public attention. Some of the greatest purposes were developed in hidden places. The world often mistakes visibility for value, but heaven never does. The world may overlook quiet faithfulness. Heaven honors it. The world may ignore silent endurance. Heaven remembers it. The world may not understand your journey. Heaven understands every step. You've spent too much time measuring your value through the eyes of people who could only see part of your story. I want you to begin seeing yourself through my eyes instead. I see courage where you see weakness. I see growth where you see delay. I see faith where you see struggle. I see purpose where you see confusion. And I see a future that is far greater than the one your fears have been trying to predict. That is why heaven never stopped speaking your name, because heaven never stopped caring about your journey. Heaven never stopped watching over your life. Heaven never stopped believing in the purpose I placed within you. Even now, while you listen to these words, your life is not drifting without direction. You are being guided. You are being watched over. You are being prepared. And soon, you will begin to understand that many of the delays and disappointments that once confused you were actually serving a purpose far greater than you realized. Because what you called delay was often something entirely different. It was protection, it was preparation, and it was love, working behind the scenes long before you could recognize it. My beloved child, before we continue, I want you to pause for just a moment. If these words are speaking to your heart, if you feel that peace gently settling over you right now, I want you to make a simple declaration of faith. Write in the comments, Lord, thank you for never forgetting me. Let that be your reminder today that you are seen, known, and deeply loved. And if this message has encouraged you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so more people who feel forgotten can receive hope and encouragement as well. Most importantly, stay with me until the end, because what I am about to reveal next may help you understand why some of the delays, disappointments, and unanswered prayers in your life were never meant to harm you. They were preparing you for something greater than you can see right now. So stay close, my child. The message is not over yet. My beloved child, there is a reason I have been speaking so carefully to your heart, because some of the pain you carry comes from a misunderstanding. You believed certain things were taken from you. You believed certain opportunities were lost forever. You believed some doors should have opened by now. And because they did not, you called it delay. You called it disappointment. You called it failure. But I want you to look at those moments from a different perspective. What you called delay was often divine protection. I know there were seasons when you watched others receive what you were praying for. You watched relationships form while yours remained uncertain. You watched careers advance while you felt stuck. You watched opportunities appear for others while your own plans seemed frozen. And quietly, without even realizing it, comparison began to steal your peace. You asked questions like, why not me? What am I doing wrong? Have I missed my chance? My child, you were asking those questions because you could only see the closed door. You could not see what stood behind it. There are things I protected you from that you may never fully understand on this side of eternity. There were people you wanted to keep in your life who would have wounded your heart more deeply had they remained. There were opportunities you desperately wanted that would have led you away from your purpose. There were situations that appeared promising on the surface, but carried hidden consequences you could not see. You judged the situation by the immediate outcome. I judged it by the future it would create. That is why our perspectives were different. You saw a closed door. I saw a dangerous path. You saw rejection. I saw rescue. You saw loss. I saw protection. My child, remember this. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open door is from me. And not every delay is a denial. Many times, what feels like rejection is actually redirection. I know that some of those delays hurt. You invested hope into certain outcomes. You imagined certain futures. You prayed specific prayers. When those things did not happen, your heart struggled to understand why. But I was never working against you. I was working for you. Even when my answer looked different than what you expected, Think about how many times you have looked back and realized that something you once desperately wanted would not have been good for you. At the time, you could not see it. At the time, you felt disappointed. At the time, you believed you were losing something valuable. Yet later, you understood that what seemed like a setback was actually protection. My child, there are still delays in your life that will one day make sense. There are prayers that have not yet been answered because the timing is not yet complete. There are blessings that have not yet arrived because preparation is still taking place. I do not delay out of cruelty. I delay out of wisdom. A loving father does not give everything immediately. A loving father gives what is needed at the right time. Sometimes your heart needed healing before receiving what you were asking for. Sometimes your character needed strengthening. Sometimes your faith needed deepening. Sometimes circumstances around you needed to align. And sometimes I was protecting you from a future that looked attractive but would have brought unnecessary pain. That is why I need you to stop interpreting every delay as evidence that I have forgotten you. I have not forgotten you. I have been protecting you. I have been guiding you. I have been preparing you. Even now, there are pieces moving into place that you cannot yet see. Even now, there are answers developing beyond your current understanding. Even now, I am working in ways that will become clear when the proper time arrives. Trust me, my child. The delay was not wasted. The waiting was not meaningless. The closed doors were not proof that I stopped caring. Many of them were evidence that I cared enough to protect you from what was not meant for you. And as you begin to understand that truth, you will also begin to understand something even deeper. The struggles you endured were not only protecting you, they were changing you. The pain itself was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what comes next. My beloved child, I know there were moments when you asked a question that many hearts have asked before you. Why did I have to go through this? You were not asking out of rebellion. You were asking out of exhaustion. You were trying to understand why the road became so difficult, why certain wounds cut so deeply, why some lessons seemed so painful, why the journey felt harder than you expected. And while I may not answer every question in the way you desire, there is something important I want you to understand. The pain was changing you, not destroying you, not defining you, not defeating you, changing you. I know that is difficult to see while you are walking through the storm. When pain is fresh, it often feels meaningless. When disappointment is recent, it often feels unfair. When your heart is hurting, growth is usually the last thing you notice. Yet even during those difficult seasons, something was happening inside you. Something deeper than circumstances. Something more lasting than temporary comfort. You were becoming stronger. Not the kind of strength the world celebrates. Not the strength that pretends everything is fine. Not the strength that hides emotions and ignores wounds. But the kind of strength that learns how to trust me even when answers are missing. The kind of strength that keeps moving forward without knowing exactly how the story ends. The kind of strength that develops when faith becomes a choice instead of a feeling. My child, before these struggles there were things about yourself you had not yet discovered. You did not know how resilient you were. You did not know how much compassion lived inside your heart. You did not know how deeply you could care for others who were hurting. But pain revealed those things. The wounds you experienced taught you how to recognize the wounds of others. The loneliness you endured taught you how to notice those who feel invisible. The disappointments you survived taught you how to offer hope to people who are losing theirs. What felt like weakness was often producing wisdom. What felt like loss was often creating empathy. What felt like breaking was often creating depth. I know there were days when you felt frustrated with your progress. You wanted to heal faster. You wanted to understand sooner. You wanted the struggle to end immediately. But growth often happens quietly. Just as roots develop beneath the surface before a tree becomes visible, I was doing work within you that could not yet be seen. Every challenge was teaching you something. Every setback was revealing something. Every difficult season was shaping something. The person you are becoming today could not have been formed by comfort alone. Some lessons only emerge through perseverance. Some wisdom only comes through waiting. Some faith only develops when certainty disappears. And while I never delight in your suffering, I can bring purpose from it. Nothing you experienced was wasted. Not the tears, not the waiting, not the heartbreak, not the confusion. I have a way of redeeming what once seemed meaningless. I have a way of using what hurt you to strengthen you. I have a way of transforming pain into testimony. My child, I need you to stop seeing yourself as broken because of what happened to you. You are not broken. You are being refined. You are being strengthened. You are being prepared. The struggles did not erase your value. They revealed your endurance. The pain did not remove your purpose. It deepened your character. The waiting did not weaken your future. It prepared you to carry it. One day you will look back and realize that some of the qualities you value most about yourself were born during the hardest seasons of your life. Your compassion, your patience, your wisdom, your faith, your understanding. Those gifts were not created during easy moments. They were developed when you chose to keep trusting me despite uncertainty. And that is why I want you to hold on a little longer, because the story is not ending where the pain began. The season that shaped you is preparing you for a season that will reveal why the shaping was necessary. You may feel behind. You may feel delayed. You may feel as though everyone else is moving ahead while you remain in the same place. But, my child, that perception is not the truth, because there is something I need you to understand next. You are not behind in life, not by my timeline, not by my plan, and not by the purpose I have prepared for you. My beloved child, one of the burdens you have carried for far too long is the belief that you are behind other people, behind your goals, behind your dreams, behind where you thought you would be by now. You look at your life and compare it to the lives around you. You see people reaching milestones. You see doors opening for others. You see prayers being answered in ways you hoped yours would be. And without realizing it, you begin measuring your journey against theirs. That comparison has stolen more peace from you than you know, because every time you compare your chapter to someone else's chapter, you forget something important. I did not create their path for you, and I did not create your path for them. My child, timing in my kingdom is not measured by speed. It is measured by readiness. The world celebrates arriving first. The world rewards visible success. The world teaches you that faster is better, but I see things differently. A fruit picked too early is not ready. A foundation built too quickly will not endure. A blessing received before preparation is complete can become a burden instead of a gift. That is why I have never measured your life according to someone else's timeline. I measure it according to my purpose for you. There were moments when you thought you had missed your opportunity. Moments when you believed you had taken a wrong turn. Moments when regret tried to convince you that it was too late. But hear me clearly. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. And you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for this season. I know there are dreams that have taken longer than expected. Promises that seem distant. Prayers that still feel unanswered. Yet what you call delay, I often call preparation, because I care not only about where you are going, but about who you become along the way. Some people receive things they are not prepared to carry. Some people arrive where they wanted to be only to discover they were not ready for what they received. But I have been preparing your heart, preparing your faith, preparing your character, preparing your understanding, so that when the right doors open, you will be able to walk through them with wisdom instead of fear. My child, stop punishing yourself for not being where you imagined you would be. Stop replaying old mistakes. Stop measuring your value by unfinished goals. Stop believing that your story is somehow falling apart because it looks different than expected. Many of the greatest things I have done in people's lives began after they thought it was too late, after they thought they had missed their chance, after they believed their best days were behind them. What looked like an ending was often the beginning of something greater. And that may be true for you right now. The enemy wants you focused on what has not happened yet. I want you to see how far you have already come. You survived seasons you once thought would break you. You endured disappointments that felt unbearable. You kept believing when giving up seemed easier. You kept moving forward even when the path was unclear. That is not failure. That is growth. That is faith. That is evidence that my hand has been guiding you all along. My child, your future is not being determined by the speed of your progress. It is being shaped by the faithfulness of my plan. One day you will look back and realize that what felt like falling behind was actually being positioned exactly where you needed to be. You will understand why certain doors stayed closed, why certain answers took longer, why certain seasons required patience. And when that day comes, you will see that my timing was never working against you, it was working for you. So lift your head, release the pressure to keep up with everyone else. Let go of the fear that you have missed your moment, because your moment has not passed. In many ways, it is only beginning. And what I am preparing to bring into your life next will remind you that no season of waiting, no season of growth, and no season of preparation was ever wasted. My beloved child, after everything you have walked through, I want you to hear these words with an open heart. The season is about to change. I know you have heard encouraging words before. I know you have hoped before. I know you have waited longer than you expected. That is why I am not asking you to place your trust in emotions. I am asking you to place your trust in me, because even now, things are shifting in ways you cannot yet fully see. For a long time it felt as though you were standing in the same place, the same struggles, the same questions, the same waiting. But beneath the surface, movement has already begun. Just because your eyes have not seen it yet does not mean it is not happening. The seed does not break through the ground the same day it is planted. The dawn does not arrive the moment the night begins to fade. And many of the things I do begin quietly before they become visible. That is where you are now. You are standing closer to a new season than you realize. The lessons of the previous season have not been wasted. The tears were not wasted. The waiting was not wasted. The growth was not wasted. Everything has been preparing you for what comes next. My child, I am not only changing circumstances around you, I am changing the way you see yourself. For too long, you have viewed yourself through the lens of disappointment, through the lens of delay, through the lens of what did not happen. But I want you to begin seeing yourself through the lens of my promises. You are stronger than you were, wiser than you were, closer to me than you were, more prepared than you realize. The season ahead will require that growth. That is why the previous season was necessary. Sometimes people pray for change without realizing they first need preparation. But you have been prepared. And now the preparation is beginning to give way to revelation. The things that once confused you will start making more sense. The direction that once felt unclear will become easier to recognize. The peace that seemed distant will begin settling into your heart. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you will start seeing my hand in places where you once saw only uncertainty. My child, do not be discouraged if everything does not change overnight. The greatest transformations often happen step by step. One answered prayer, one open door, one restored hope, one moment of clarity at a time. Yet every step will remind you that I have been faithful all along. There is a reason I have been teaching you patience. There is a reason I have been strengthening your faith. There is a reason I have been drawing you closer. Because what is ahead requires the person you have become during this season. You are not entering the future as the same person who began this journey. You have grown, you have matured, you have endured, and heaven has been preparing you for this transition all along. So do not hold on to the fear of the past. Do not cling to old disappointments. Do not allow yesterday's pain to convince you that tomorrow will be the same. Lift your eyes, my child. Something new is beginning. Hope is rising again. Peace is returning. Strength is increasing. And the season that once felt endless is beginning to give way to something different. Because I have not brought you this far to leave you where you started. And what comes next will help you see that every step of this journey has been guided by my love. My beloved child, as we come to this moment together, I want you to hold on to one truth above all others. You are deeply known, and you are deeply loved. Not partially known, not occasionally loved. Deeply known, deeply loved. There is nothing about you that I do not see. I know the dreams you rarely talk about. I know the fears you try to hide. I know the disappointments that still linger in your heart. I know the questions you have not yet found the courage to ask. I know the memories that still make your eyes fill with tears. I know the hopes you continue carrying even when you are afraid to believe again. Nothing about your life is hidden from me, and nothing I see causes me to turn away. Many people spend their lives searching for someone who truly understands them. someone who sees beyond appearances, someone who recognizes the struggles beneath the smile, someone who understands the words left unspoken. My child, I have always known those parts of you. I know the version of you that the world sees, but I also know the version of you that only appears when you are alone. The tired version, the worried version, the hopeful version, the version that wonders whether everything will be okay. And I love every part of you, not because you are perfect, not because you always get things right, not because you never struggle. I love you because you are mine. Your mistakes do not surprise me. Your questions do not frighten me. Your weaknesses do not push me away. My love for you was never based on performance. It was never earned by achievement, and it cannot be lost because of failure. That is why you can rest. You do not have to fight for my attention. You do not have to prove your worth. You do not have to convince me to care. I already do. I always have, and I always will. So when loneliness tries to tell you that nobody sees you, remember this moment. When fear tells you that you have been forgotten, remember this truth. When doubt whispers that your life does not matter, remember whose voice speaks louder. You are known by heaven. You are remembered with love. You are watched over with care. You are guided with purpose. And no matter what season you walk through, that reality remains unchanged. My child, you are not a number. You are not an accident. You are not an afterthought. You are my child, deeply known, deeply valued, and deeply loved. Now stay with me for one final moment, because there is something I want you to remember whenever you look back on this message. This moment was not random. It was prepared for you. My beloved child, before this message comes to an end, I want you to return to where we began. This moment was prepared for you, not by accident, not by luck, not because you happened to be in the right place at the right time. You are here because I have been guiding your steps more carefully than you realize. Think about everything we have talked about today. The loneliness, the waiting, the silence, the delays, the disappointments, the questions that seem to have no answers. None of those things meant that I had forgotten you. None of those things meant that you were abandoned. And none of those things were powerful enough to separate you from my love. Even when you could not see me working, I was working. Even when you could not hear my voice, I was speaking. Even when you felt lost, I was guiding. Every step of your journey has been held within my care. There were moments when you thought your life was drifting without direction. Now I want you to see the truth. You were being led. You were being protected. You were being prepared. The season you called lonely became a place where your faith grew deeper. The season you called delay became a place where wisdom was being formed. The season you called confusion became a place where understanding was quietly taking root. My child, do not leave this message carrying the same burden you brought into it. Leave with peace. Leave with hope. Leave with the assurance that your story is still unfolding. Your future is still being written, and my hand is still upon your life. One day you will look back and understand what you cannot fully understand today. You will see how every closed door, every delay, every quiet season, and every difficult moment fit together within a greater purpose. Until then, trust me. Trust my timing. Trust my love. And remember this whenever doubt tries to return. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were always being guided. And this moment, this very moment, was prepared for you from the very beginning. Heavenly Father, thank you for meeting us in this moment. Thank you for reminding us that we are never forgotten, never abandoned, and never beyond your reach. Lord, for every person listening right now who has been carrying loneliness, uncertainty, disappointment, or fear, I pray that your peace would gently fill their heart. Replace anxiety with trust. Replace confusion with clarity. Replace weariness with renewed strength. Father, help us remember that your timing is perfect, even when we do not understand it. Help us trust that every delay, every closed door, and every difficult season is held within your loving hands. Remind us that our value does not come from the approval of people, but from being your beloved children. When we feel unseen, help us remember that you see us completely. When we feel weak, remind us that your strength is enough. When we feel alone, help us feel the comfort of your presence surrounding us. Thank you for guiding us, protecting us, and preparing us for the future you have planned. We place our worries, our questions, and our hopes into your hands today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. My beloved child, if this message has spoken to your heart today, I want you to make a declaration of faith before you leave. In the comments, write, "My name is known in heaven, and I trust God's timing." Let that be your reminder that you are not forgotten, not abandoned, and not walking through this season alone. And if you believe that God is guiding your steps, even when you cannot see the full picture, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every message shared here is meant to bring hope, encouragement, and a deeper awareness of God's presence in your life. Most importantly, carry this truth with you today. The loneliness was not the end of your story. The waiting was not wasted. The silence had a purpose, and God has never stopped watching over you. Remember, my child, you are deeply known, you are deeply loved, and you are never alone. God bless you.